This is the story of a man who had it all: power, privilege, and control over an empire in the sky. But one night, due to a series of delays and a grounded jet, he found himself in a middle seat of his own making. What he saw from that cramped, forgotten row would shake him to his core. Because the truth isn't in reports or briefings. It's in the quiet sighs, the tired eyes, and the whispered complaints at 30,000 feet. Mark Ellison leaned back in his car seat, parked just off the runway, rain streaking across the windshield. The glow of private jets shimmered beneath the storm clouds, but his own aircraft remained grounded. Mechanical issue, weather delay. It didn't matter. The irony stung. He was the CEO of Nova Sky Airlines, and tonight he couldn't even get off the ground. He checked his phone. Only one commercial flight heading in his direction. Flight 728, one of his own. Economy class. Overbooked, only middle seats left. Mark sighed, rubbing his eyes. It had been years since he flew in the back of the plane. Not out of arrogance, at least that's what he told himself, but because time was money. Direct routes, private cabins, seamless departures. That was the CEO lifestyle. But tonight the choice was clear: fly or stay stuck. Less than an hour later, he was shuffling down a crowded jet bridge, cap pulled low. The air smelled like stale coffee and recycled breath. The flight attendant greeted him without recognition and motioned to the back. Seat 34B. He wedged himself between a college kid glued to his phone and an older man already dozing off. Knees to tray, elbows confined, he felt something unfamiliar: confinement. Outside his office walls and company cars, Mark was just another passenger now. No special treatment, no title, just a man in a seat that thousands like him occupied daily. And for the first time in a long while, he wasn't watching the experience. He was living it. The plane vibrated beneath him as it taxied, the low rumble echoing in his spine. Mark reached for the armrest, already taken. The kid beside him claimed both with unconscious confidence. The man to his left snored softly. Somewhere behind, a baby cried. A flight attendant passed briskly. "Please store your bags properly, sir," she said without looking. He nodded, adjusting his laptop bag beneath the seat. The tray table was sticky, the cushion beneath him thin. He tried to shift, but there was no room to move. The overhead bins were crammed, the air dry and tired. Mark had read hundreds of customer satisfaction reports, seen thousands of survey metrics, but no graph or chart ever made him feel this. The cabin was quiet in a heavy way, not peaceful, but resigned. People just existing, waiting, hoping it would be over soon. And it hit him. This wasn't just about comfort. It was about being seen, or not. He looked around. No one was smiling. Not the crew, not the passengers. Everyone was running on fumes, just trying to get from one place to another. And somewhere in that silence, Mark realized this wasn't just a one-off bad flight. This was the system, the one he had built. The seatbelt sign went off with a soft ding. The crew began their service routine, mechanical, efficient, no eye contact. "Chicken or pasta?" one asked. "Just water," Mark replied. His paper cup arrived with half a napkin stuck to the bottom. The attendant had already moved on. He looked around. Coffee stains on tray tables. Orange stickiness on the in-flight magazine. Bags jammed in overheads. But what struck him most wasn't the mess. It was the fatigue, etched into the lines on every face around him. A woman across the aisle struggled with an oxygen attachment for her father, while a toddler kicked her seat from behind. No one offered help, except one person. A stranger beside her quietly passed a pack of wipes and a soft toy. "Been there," she whispered. The mother blinked, grateful. Mark watched, unmoving. This was the service, not the logo on the headrest, not the polished mission statement. It was people helping each other because the system no longer did. From his middle seat, Mark watched the reality unfold. Passengers left on autopilot, crew moving like shadows. He reached for the in-flight magazine again, but let it fall back. A voice a row behind caught his attention. "They used to care," a man muttered. "Now it's just fees and fake smiles." Another voice. "You want a cup of water? That's $10 and a headache." Soft chuckles followed, dry, bitter ones. Mark didn't turn around. He didn't need to. He was hearing what no one ever said to his face, the truth at 30,000 feet. As the plane leveled off at cruising altitude, the cabin dimmed to a soft hum. Mark leaned back, trying to find a position that didn't punish his lower back. He felt every jolt in the metal beneath him. To his left, the older man coughed again, dry and persistent. Mark reached into his jacket and handed him a tissue. The man blinked, surprised, and gave him a small nod of thanks. It was a moment, simple, quiet, but it stirred something in Mark. How many moments like this had his policies erased? Across the aisle, a young mother juggled a bottle, a baby, and a diaper bag. Her toddler fidgeted endlessly. She muttered under her breath, clearly overwhelmed. A flight attendant passed her without pausing, but the woman seated beside her leaned in. "Here," she said gently, offering a toy from her purse. "I've been there." Tears welled in the mother's eyes. She mouthed, "Thank you." Behind Mark, voices floated forward. "They don't care anymore," one man said. "Used to get apologies and real help. Now it's just QR codes and canned responses." Someone else chimed in. "You notice how tired the crew looks? Like they're holding on by a thread." Mark sat still, listening. These weren't complaints. They were confessions. Pain wrapped in humor. Truth delivered quietly, in places where it was safe to speak it. A few rows back, a woman whispered, "Don't even get me started on the CEO. What's his name? Ellison? I bet he hasn't sat back here in decades." Mark closed his eyes. He had no defense, because she was right. Somewhere behind the galley curtain, two flight attendants sat whispering on their jump seats. Mark hadn't meant to listen, but the words found him anyway. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," one said softly. A woman, exhausted. "Same," came a man's voice. 12 days straight, 3 hours sleep, no layovers, just turnarounds." Mark kept still. The curtain was only a few feet away. He stared at the back of the seat in front of him, but all he could hear was them. "It's like we're invisible," she continued. "They cut hours, cut pay, and send us thank you emails like it fixes anything." "They used to care," the man said. "Remember when the CEO actually showed up on crew calls?" She laughed, but it was hollow. "Now it's just smile, serve, survive." Mark's throat tightened. That voice, worn and human, echoed through him. "I don't hate the job," she said after a pause. "I hate how small I feel doing it." And just like that, it broke him. When the plane landed and the seatbelt sign dinged off, passengers stood, stretched, gathered their things. Mark remained seated. He looked around, not just at faces, but at what was beneath them. Exhaustion, endurance, grace in a graceless system. No one recognized him. That was the point. As he disembarked, he paused beside the tired flight attendant who had greeted him hours earlier. "Thank you," he said simply. She blinked, caught off guard. "You're welcome, sir." Outside the gate, he veered away from the exit and stepped into a quiet corner. He took out his phone and called his assistant. "Get the executive team on a call. First thing tomorrow morning. No delays, full attendance." "What's this about?" she asked. Mark stared out the window, watching another plane take off under the night sky. "It's about everything we stopped seeing," he said, "and the people who've been carrying this company while we weren't looking." The next morning, the boardroom was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching in the silver of coffee pots and untouched notepads. The executives sat in their usual seats, expectant, curious, unprepared. Mark stood at the head of the table, not with slides or statistics, but with silence. Then he spoke. "I flew economy last night," he said. "Seat 34B. Murmurs passed through the room. "No private cabin, no gate escort, just me, in a middle seat, between a kid with earbuds and a man coughing into his elbow." He paused. The room held its breath. "I saw things I never read in a report. I heard things we don't hear in surveys. I saw the fatigue in our crew, the frustration in our passengers, and the silence between the two." He tapped the screen behind him. A single slide appeared. Nova, rebuilding from within. "This isn't a rebrand. It's a return. We're auditing everything. Crew schedules, passenger comfort, internal culture, Policy layers that make people feel small. He turned to the HR chief. I want employee panels reporting directly to my office, monthly, unfiltered. Another pause. This company doesn't need a marketing campaign. It needs a mirror. 3 months later, things felt different. Not louder, not flashier, just better. The tone on Nova Sky flights had shifted, not just in the announcements, but in the energy. Flight attendants moved with less tension. Passengers breathed easier. Kindness returned in small but powerful ways. A blanket offered, a stroller folded, a nervous flyer calmed by a crew member kneeling at their side. There were more of them now, more crew per flight, more time to rest, real breaks, real sleep, and it showed. Mark didn't fly private anymore. Once a month, he booked himself a random flight in economy. No one knew when or where. He didn't announce himself. He just boarded, sat down, and watched. One flight, he saw a young attendant guide a passenger through turbulence, her voice calm and low. Another time, he watched a colleague help a father install a car seat with care. It wasn't training. It wasn't policy. It was humanity, given room to breathe again. After one flight, he waited for the cabin to empty. Then he approached the purser, a woman named Dana. It's different now, she said, smiling. And not just the uniforms. He smiled back. You're the reason it changed. She tilted her head. Maybe, or maybe the reason was watching. Mark stood in another quiet terminal, watching passengers filter into the glow of a new morning. He thought about how close he'd come to leading from above. Too high to hear, too fast to see, but not anymore. Because leadership isn't built in boardrooms. It's built in the middle seat, in the aisle where someone hands a tissue, in the galley where someone whispers they're barely holding on. You don't fix a company by tweaking numbers. You fix it by remembering names, by listening, by flying low enough to feel the bumps. The flight number echoed overhead. Mark slung his bag over his shoulder and walked toward the gate. He had built a system once. Now he was rebuilding it, not from the top, but from the inside out.